beloved chosen one. Pause for a moment. Heaven has silenced the noise around you so that you can hear this whisper. This is not a coincidence. This is divine interruption. Something in your spirit is awakening an ancient recognition, stirring like fire under the surface of your soul. You have felt it before. That sacred pull that defies logic. That quiet certainty that God is calling your name again. You can feel it even now, the trembling of the atmosphere, when your spirit begins to align with heaven's frequency. You were not designed to blend into the background. You were crafted to respond to the divine voice that cuts through confusion, pain, and doubt. Every time you ignored that voice, something in you grew restless, didn't it? Because deep down, your spirit remembers its origin. It recognizes the sound of its maker. You can't unhear it. You can't silence it with distraction or busyness. The voice of God doesn't compete, it commands. It moves through your soul like wind through leaves, awakening what has been dormant, calling out what has been hidden. For too long, you've listened to the noise of the world, voices that told you who you should be, how far you could go, and what you could never become. But that's not who you are. The true you is the one that comes alive when God speaks. You were never meant to survive on noise. You were meant to live by His word. And right now, that word is coming to you with divine clarity. Listen, for your spirit recognizes my voice. When you were broken, His voice whispered comfort. When you were confused, His voice brought peace. When you were lost, His voice found you. Even when you thought you'd wandered too far, He called you by name. That's why you're here at this very moment, not by chance, not by scrolling, but by divine orchestration. The same God who spoke light into existence has spoken this encounter into being. You may wonder, how do I know if it's really God? The answer is simple. Your spirit knows. It's that deep assurance that settles beneath your doubts. It's that warmth that fills your chest when truth is spoken. It's that unmistakable pull toward light. Even when you're surrounded by darkness, your mind might argue, but your spirit never lies. You recognize the tone of heaven because it's encoded within you. You are not the sum of your past mistakes. You are not the product of rejection or disappointment. You are the living proof of divine intention. You've been set apart for this moment, to hear, to respond, to rise. Every battle, every heartbreak, every tear was preparation for this recognition. You are the one who hears and follows, the one whose obedience will shift atmospheres. You are the chosen one. As it is written in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 27, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." Those words are not merely ancient text, they are a living code written into your DNA. The shepherd's voice is not distant, it is personal, calling you by name, awakening you from spiritual slumber. You don't have to chase it, you simply have to quiet the noise and listen. Every time you tune your heart to His frequency, you find direction where there was confusion, courage where there was fear, and peace where there was turmoil. Beloved, this is the beginning of a divine conversation between you and heaven. From this moment forward, you will notice how the world around you seems to move in rhythm with that voice. You'll sense divine nudges, promptings to speak, to forgive, to step forward, to let go. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. The Spirit is teaching you the language of obedience, and obedience will lead you into overflow. If this message resonates within you, if your spirit is burning right now, it's because heaven is calling you closer. Don't ignore it. This is your moment of awakening. Let your response be immediate. As you listen, as you follow, your life will shift from survival to purpose, from confusion to clarity, from wandering to walking in divine direction. Right now, as an act of recognition, I invite you to take a small but powerful step. If this word has spoken to your heart, like, share, and comment below. Declare with your action that you are listening to the voice that created you. Subscribe to stay connected to this flow of divine revelation, because what's coming next will take you even deeper. You are not just a listener, you are a carrier of His voice on earth. Heaven is watching your response, and grace is being poured out on those who choose to follow. Let this be the moment you declare, Lord, I recognize your voice, and I will follow. The noise of the world will fade, but His word will remain. You are chosen to hear it, to live it, and to echo it. Comment this number as your sign of divine recognition, 777, a symbol of spiritual completion and holy alignment. The voice has called, and you have answered. You stand now in the light of realization, beginning to understand that this moment did not arrive by coincidence. Heaven does not work through randomness. It orchestrates divine intersections. Everything that led you here, the delays, the detours, even the heartbreaks, were all steps in a celestial choreography. There were times you wondered if God had forgotten you. But every unanswered prayer was really divine timing in disguise. You have been guided by an unseen hand, led by divine intent toward this exact encounter. Look back for a moment. Remember the moments that felt like endings, the doors that slammed shut, the relationships that suddenly dissolved, the plans that fell apart. Each one was heaven's way of redirecting you. Every loss carried a secret message. You were never meant to stay there. You didn't fail. You were being repositioned. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. And now, as you listen, you realize that what you once called coincidence was actually divine appointment. God has always had a way of arranging moments where the natural meets the supernatural. Think of Moses wandering in the wilderness, tending sheep, when suddenly the bush began to burn. Think of Samuel, a child lying in the temple, when a voice broke through the silence and called his name. Those moments changed history, and today, you stand in your own burning bush moment. Heaven is once again intersecting with earth, not through thunder, not through lightning, but through revelation, through the quiet voice whispering, you're in the right place, at the right time. Your presence here is evidence of purpose, divine purpose. You might not have seen the pattern before, but now your eyes are opening. Every disappointment was a disguised direction. Every closed door was a form of protection. The divine plan didn't need your understanding, only your endurance. And because you didn't give up, heaven has brought you to this unveiling. There is a weight of holiness on this very second. The air seems to thicken with purpose, because destiny is never casual. The divine realm is intentional about every encounter it allows. And right now, the message is clear. You are seen. You are known. You are sent. There's a sacred comfort in realizing that God has been speaking all along, through whispers, through delays, through the ache that wouldn't leave. The Spirit speaks even when you think heaven is silent. Sometimes, divine communication isn't loud, It's layered. It's in the way your spirit quickens when truth is spoken. It's in the unexplainable peace that comes when everything else makes no sense. Every chosen one has a moment of recognition. A moment when the veil between purpose and understanding is lifted. You are in that moment now. The past doesn't make sense until revelation arrives. And when it does, you see how the scattered pieces fit perfectly into the pattern of grace. The ancient words recorded in the book of Romans, chapter 11, verse 29, "For the gifts and the calling of God are without repentance." Do you feel it, that gentle stirring in your chest? That awareness that you are exactly where you are meant to be? That's not emotion, it's alignment. Heaven has been waiting for you to realize that the voice calling you wasn't random inspiration. It was divine orchestration. God has brought you here to remind you that you are still part of the plan. The world calls it fate, but heaven calls it fulfillment. You were predestined for this moment to awaken, to remember, to respond. The intersection between human choice and divine calling is where miracles begin to unfold. When you choose to see divine purpose in what once looked like pain, you redeem the story. There is something holy about divine timing. It doesn't always arrive when we expect it, but it always arrives when we're ready to receive it. The waiting wasn't wasted. It trained your spirit to recognize His movement. You had to go through the valley so that your ears could be tuned to the frequency of heaven. You had to be broken before you could discern His whisper. Now, you stand at the threshold of a new awareness. Heaven is not distant, it is deliberate. God's timing is not delayed, it is divine. And this awareness, this recognition, is not simply for your comfort, it's your commissioning. The call on your life is awakening again. So take this in deeply. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. And you are not late. You are right on time, standing in the place heaven has designed. The same voice that called creation into being has called you into this divine moment of recognition. All that remains now is for you to say within your spirit, "Yes, Lord, I see your hand in all of it." This is not coincidence, it's confirmation. Every step, every season, every silence was heaven preparing you for this unveiling. Your life is the evidence of divine intention. You were chosen long before you understood what it meant. And now, that truth resounds within you. You are living proof that destiny always finds its way home. You've heard the call. But now the battlefield shifts inward. The war no longer rages outside you, it rages within your mind. Every thought that rises, every whisper of doubt, every fear that tells you to stay silent, this is where the greatest warfare takes place. The enemy doesn't always come with horns or shadows. Sometimes he comes disguised as your own reasoning. You are standing between the noise of the world and the whisper of God. And this is where destinies are decided. There's a constant tug. "Isn't there?" One voice says. "You're not enough." Another whispers, "You were chosen." One voice echoes your failures. The other calls your name with mercy. And somewhere deep inside, your spirit knows which one is true. The voice of God is never frantic. It's never condemning. It doesn't shout to be heard. It settles like peace in the middle of chaos. You know this voice. You've heard it before when you almost gave up, when your heart was breaking, when the world felt too heavy. It's that quiet assurance that says, "Keep going." It's that sudden calm that arrives when nothing around you makes sense. That's the voice of your shepherd. And it's that voice the enemy tries hardest to drown. Your mind is a battlefield where truth and deception wrestle daily. Fear tries to masquerade as logic. Anxiety pretends to be caution. Guilt disguises itself as humility. But the Spirit of God cuts through every disguise. His words don't enslave, they set free. They don't shame, they restore. You've spent too long letting the wrong voices write your story. The ones that told you you're too broken, too late, too far gone. But God's voice declares something different. He says, "You're mine. I called you. I equipped you. I sent you." The moment you begin to believe that, the entire landscape of your life begins to change. Be still for a moment, and you'll feel it, the subtle battle in your thoughts, the temptation to overthink, to doubt what you already know in your spirit. The mind wants control, but the spirit seeks surrender. The mind analyzes, the spirit recognizes. And when your spirit recognizes the divine voice, the confusion begins to lift. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 46, verse 10, "Be still, and know that I am God." Those ancient words are more than a gentle suggestion. They are a spiritual command to quiet your thoughts so your soul can hear. The enemy thrives in noise, but God reigns in stillness. When you choose silence, you starve the voices that feed your fear. When you choose stillness, you create space for divine revelation. There's a secret every chosen one learns. Peace is a weapon. The calmness that comes when you rest in God's presence terrifies the enemy. He can't manipulate a mind anchored in peace. That's why distractions increase the moment you decide to pray. That's why your phone lights up when you try to meditate. Because if the enemy can keep you noisy, he can keep you numb. But this is the season where your discernment must rise higher than your emotions. You must learn to test the voice. God's words lead you toward obedience. The enemy's words lead you toward confusion. God's voice convicts. The enemy's voice condemns. One brings you to your knees in surrender. The other buries you in shame. Choose carefully which voice you feed, because the one you feed will rule your thoughts. Every time you recognize the voice of God and choose it, heaven celebrates. Because each act of obedience is an act of warfare. You are pushing back darkness simply by choosing peace. You are winning battles simply by staying still in His presence. The mind says, "Prove yourself." But God says, "Be still and let me prove my faithfulness." You don't need to overperform to earn His love. You only need to listen. The voice that called you is also the voice that sustains you. You don't need to chase what's already written. You only need to align with it. Let this truth sink deep. The greatest victory you'll ever win is mastering the volume of your thoughts. Learning to quiet what is loud so you can hear what is holy. The world trains you to react. Heaven trains you to respond. When you stop reacting to fear, you start responding to faith. This is the hour to guard your mind like sacred ground. Don't let fear camp there. Don't let shame take root. Every thought is a seed. Decide which ones you will water. The garden of your destiny depends on the thoughts you allow to grow. If this moment stirs something inside you, let your spirit respond. Type the simple words, "I choose peace." Say it not just as a comment, but as a declaration, because when you write it, you are breaking agreement with anxiety and aligning with divine stillness. You're declaring that your mind is no longer the enemy's playground, it's God's dwelling place. You are affirming that from this day forward, His whisper will have more authority than the world's noise. Peace is not the absence of problems, it's the presence of His voice. And that voice is calling you now, softly but powerfully, saying, "Be still, my child, and know that I am God." Let your comment become your covenant. I choose peace, because in the stillness you will find strength, and in the strength you will find His voice leading you forward. There is something sacred about recognition. When your spirit encounters the voice of heaven, it is not just hearing, it is remembering. You are not discovering something new, you are awakening to something ancient. The voice that calls you now is the same voice that spoke before time began. The same resonance that formed light out of darkness, order out of chaos, and purpose out of emptiness. That voice carries a frequency your spirit has always known. It is the sound of home. You are marked by that voice from the moment you were formed. Before breath filled your lungs, heaven placed an invisible seal upon you. It was not a mark seen by the world, but one felt in the depths of your being, a divine signature, proof of ownership, a reminder that you belong to the eternal. That is why certain places never felt like home, why certain people could never fully understand you. You carry something different. The world senses it even when you try to hide it. You are set apart by the sound you respond to. You've felt this before. A word spoken in passing, a verse that echoes in your heart, a moment of stillness that feels like eternity. All of these are reminders of your divine connection. When others dismiss these encounters as coincidence, your spirit knows better. It recognizes the shepherd's tone, the pulse of the Creator, the undeniable rhythm of divine intimacy. This is not emotion, it is remembrance. We are reminded of this mystery through the words written in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 16. The Spirit Himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God. This is not mere poetry. It is the revelation of your identity. The Spirit within you testifies, confirming that you are not a stranger to heaven, you are family. You do not have to strive for acceptance, it was already spoken over you. You do not have to prove your worth, it was established before your birth. The Spirit inside you recognizes the sound of the Father's voice, because they have always been in conversation. You are not ordinary, chosen one. That inner pull you feel toward light, truth, and righteousness is not a personality trait, it's divine DNA. You've been marked for understanding. You can sense deception before it reaches your ears. You can feel when a place carries darkness, even when others cannot explain it. It's because the Spirit within you is active, discerning, and alive. You carry heaven's awareness within an earthly vessel. The recognition of God's voice separates you from the crowd. It creates distance between you and those who prefer noise over truth. It makes you appear strange to those still asleep in spiritual amnesia. But don't mistake that separation for rejection. Isolation often comes before elevation. God withdraws His chosen ones from distraction so they can hear Him clearly. What feels like loneliness is often training in divine communication. When you are marked by the voice of heaven, compromise becomes painful. You cannot settle for lesser sounds when you've tasted the frequency of glory. You can't find peace in chaos because your soul has already encountered divine order. The things that used to excite you lose their pull because you've seen something greater. You've glimpsed the eternal. And once that happens, nothing temporary satisfies again. This recognition will not only shape your faith, it will shape your destiny. When you start to recognize God's voice with clarity, you begin to move differently. Decisions no longer come from fear, but from revelation. You stop chasing opportunities that are not aligned with your assignment. You learn to pause, to listen, to wait for that inner confirmation. That's how heaven leads its chosen, through recognition, not reaction. There will be moments when the world's noise grows louder, trying to drown out what you've heard. In those moments, remember, you are not fighting for recognition, you are living from it. The Spirit already testifies within you. You already know the truth, even when your mind tries to argue against it. That is the beauty of divine awareness. It anchors you when everything else shakes. The mark of the divine is subtle but unshakable. It doesn't need validation. It carries authority. That's why the enemy fears your awakening. He knows that once you fully recognize the voice of heaven, manipulation loses its power. Temptation loses its grip. Confusion loses its voice. Because once you know who speaks to you, no counterfeit can deceive you again. So let this truth rest in you like light settling on water. You are marked by the voice of heaven. You belong to the one who called you. And nothing, no distance, no failure, no darkness can erase that seal. Every time you hear him speak, your spirit answers not as a stranger, but as a child returning home. There is peace in that recognition, strength in that remembrance, and purpose in that identity. The same voice that spoke the universe into existence now whispers within you, not to command you like a servant, but to remind you that you are his child. You are marked, chosen, and remembered. And that mark will never fade. When God speaks, the very fabric of creation responds. The universe was born from a voice, not from chaos, not from accident, but from divine utterance. Every atom carries the memory of that sound. Every sunrise, every tide, every heartbeat moves in rhythm with it. So when you hear God's voice and choose to obey, you do more than respond. You participate in the same creative force that shaped the heavens. Darkness trembles, confusion scatters, and life begins to form around your obedience. The voice of God does not merely inform, it transforms. It doesn't speak to your intellect alone, it awakens your destiny. Every command from heaven carries both instruction and power, the power to bring what it declares into existence. That is why when you obey, miracles begin to unfold naturally. You may not see it at first, but in the unseen realm, the ground shifts, chains loosen, paths open, light pierces through where darkness thought it could reign forever. You felt this before, that moment when you listened, even when it didn't make sense, and somehow everything began to align. You stepped out in faith, and what seemed impossible unfolded like dawn breaking through the clouds. That's the mystery of divine obedience. You don't have to see the full picture, you just have to trust the voice that painted the stars. Heaven doesn't shout to be heard. It whispers to those willing to follow. When you obey that whisper, you become a vessel of power. Your voice begins to carry the same frequency of the one who sent you. That's why the enemy fears a listener more than a preacher. Because the listener carries heaven's authority. Words born from obedience carry fire that cannot be imitated. We are reminded of this creative power through the words found in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 3. And God said, "Let there be light." and there was light. This is the pattern of heaven. God speaks, and reality obeys. You are created in His image, which means your words, spoken in alignment with His, carry power too. When you echo what heaven says, you are no longer speaking as flesh, you are speaking as spirit. Your declarations become bridges between heaven and earth. Your obedience releases light into dark places, sometimes not just in your life, but in the lives of those who hear you. Imagine your obedience as a spark in a night sky. One spark can't light the entire horizon, but together, many sparks become constellations, signs of direction for those still wandering. When you listen and respond, you're lighting someone else's way, even if you don't realize it. There are hearts depending on your yes. There are destinies waiting on your obedience. Sometimes, the smallest act of faith, sharing a message, offering encouragement, sowing a seed, becomes the wave that ripples through eternity. It's like a candle offered to another. Your flame doesn't diminish when you give, it multiplies. When you share light, heaven multiplies your reach. So if this word is resonating in you, if it's stirring something deeper than words, let it move you to action. Support the sound that awakens you. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you are not just engaging with content, you are joining in a divine echo. You're saying, let this voice of light reach others still walking in the dark. And if your heart feels led, consider giving, donating, not as a transaction, but as worship. Giving is not about amount, it's about alignment. It's saying, I believe in the light that broke through my own darkness, and I want that light to keep shining for others. Every small offering, be it a prayer, a share, a donation, is like planting a seed into sacred soil. It grows beyond your sight, touching lives you may never meet. Your act of support becomes part of the miracle, because this isn't just a message, it's a movement of voices awakened by the divine. Picture it, a lighthouse standing on a stormy shore. Its light doesn't chase after ships, it simply stands and shines, guiding them safely home. When you support this work, you become part of that lighthouse. Your engagement keeps the flame alive. Your generosity fuels its glow. And together, we help others find the voice that called us. Chosen one. Never underestimate what your obedience can do. When you move with heaven, every step becomes prophecy. When you align your heart with God's voice, even your smallest gesture becomes eternal. Darkness trembles not because you shout, but because you listen and act. You are not just a listener, you are a vessel of light. You are part of something. Heaven is building a network of awakened souls who refuse to let the darkness have the final word. Every comment, every act of support, every gift of faith strengthens the light that continues to spread across this world. Let your obedience echo heaven's first command, let there be light. And as you give, as you share, as you keep this fire burning, know this, your light does not fade. It multiplies. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the weight of waiting begins to press heavy on the heart. You've heard God's voice. You've felt His stirring. But somewhere between promise and fulfillment, hesitation crept in. You told yourself you were waiting for confirmation. Yet deep down, you knew you were stalling out of fear. The truth is, delay can be more dangerous than disobedience, because when heaven speaks, time itself shifts, and if you hesitate too long, opportunities begin to move on without you. Heaven does not wait forever. Grace opens doors, but it doesn't hold them open indefinitely. The Spirit moves in divine timing. And when you sense that tug in your spirit, that unmistakable pull to act, you are standing in a sacred moment. Delay may feel safe, but safety can be spiritual sabotage. Some blessings only manifest in movement. God doesn't reward comfort, He rewards courage. The ancient words written in the second book of Corinthians, chapter 6, verse 2, "Now is the accepted time, behold, now is the day of salvation." That verse is more than instruction, it's urgency wrapped in mercy. God is saying, now, not next week, not when it feels convenient, not when the fear is gone. The Spirit's call is always in the present tense, when heaven says move. Obedience cannot wait until logic catches up, because obedience rarely makes sense until after you take the step. Hesitation doesn't just delay your destiny, it dulls your discernment. Every time you say later to the divine whisper, your spiritual hearing grows a little weaker. Heaven's voice doesn't fade out of anger, it fades because of timing. The signal moves forward, carrying those who follow. If you stay still, you lose the frequency. That's why some doors close without warning, not because God is cruel, but because movement was required and silence was chosen instead. You've probably felt that heaviness, the moment where conviction and comfort wrestled for control. The Spirit nudged you toward forgiveness, but your pride said, "Not yet." The voice told you to leave that toxic place, but your mind said, "It's not the right time." Yet deep down, you knew it was heaven speaking. Delay is the enemy of destiny. Don't misunderstand, there's a difference between divine waiting and human hesitation. Divine waiting is faith in motion, it's active preparation. Human hesitation is fear disguised as wisdom. One aligns you with God's timing, the other distances you from it. The difference is obedience. Heaven's pattern is simple revelation, instruction, motion. You are never given the whole map, only the next step. And that's intentional. Because faith is not about seeing everything, it's about trusting the one who sees all. Sometimes you say you're waiting on God, but in truth, God is waiting on you. The miracle has already been released. It's your movement that activates it. Think of the Red Sea. It didn't part when Moses prayed about it. It parted when he raised his staff and stepped forward. The power wasn't in the sea, it was in obedience. Many people spend their lives asking for a sign, but chosen ones learn that obedience is the sign. The moment you obey, the evidence appears. You don't wait for the way you walk, and the way opens beneath your feet. You may feel unready, you may feel unqualified, but God doesn't call the prepared, He prepares the called. Every time you move, when He says move, you grow stronger, wiser, and closer to destiny. Hesitation shrinks faith, obedience stretches it. And stretched faith is what opens the heavens. Beloved, this word isn't here to condemn, it's here to awaken. Heaven is moving again. The Spirit is stirring the waters, and your name is being whispered across eternity. Don't stand at the edge of your miracle, watching others step in. It's your turn. If this message is confirming something deep in your spirit, if you know that God has been prompting you to act, then respond right now. Don't wait for perfect conditions, they never come. Respond in faith. Declare your readiness with one prophetic gesture. Type this number in the comments, 888. It's not just a number, it's a prophetic act. The number 888 represents new beginnings, resurrection, and divine movement. When you comment it, you're saying, I refuse to delay any longer. I choose to move when heaven moves. You're declaring that your days of hesitation are over and that your obedience will now lead your steps. Do this not as ritual, but as response, because heaven records every act of faith, no matter how small. And when you act in alignment, even through a simple gesture, you are saying to the spiritual realm, I'm ready. I'm moving. This is your moment. Chosen one, the voice has spoken. The door is open. The time is now. Let heaven see your response. Type 888. Take the step and walk into what has already been written for you. There is a language your flesh cannot understand, a frequency that doesn't come through logic, but through the Spirit. It is the language of heaven, quiet yet powerful, hidden yet unmistakable. And you, chosen one, are learning to speak it. You are learning to live not by reaction, but by revelation, to recognize that what your flesh calls coincidence, your spirit calls confirmation. Every chosen one must go through this training, this divine education of discernment. You were born into a noisy world. From the moment you opened your eyes, the flesh tried to teach you its vocabulary: fear, survival, doubt, performance. It told you that success means control and that power means pride. But the Spirit speaks another tongue entirely. It whispers words like surrender, peace, obedience, and truth. It doesn't shout, it leads. And this is the war every believer faces, the voice of the flesh trying to rule over the voice of the Spirit. The journey you are on is not just about faith, it's about fluency. Heaven is teaching you to understand its language so you can move in rhythm with divine timing. There will be moments when what God says contradicts what your senses see. He will tell you to love someone who hurt you, to forgive when they don't deserve it, to give when you feel you have nothing left. That's when the war between flesh and spirit becomes fiercest. But remember, the voice you obey determines the world you live in. The voice of the flesh always demands proof. It says, I'll believe it when I see it. But the Spirit says, believe, and you will see. The flesh seeks validation. The Spirit rests in revelation. The flesh fears lack. The Spirit walks in abundance. Every decision you make, every word you speak, reveals which voice you are following. There will be times when the Spirit asks you to move in ways that make no sense to the natural mind. Like Abraham leaving home without a destination. Like Peter stepping onto the waves. Like Mary saying yes to a promise that defied human logic. They weren't responding to flesh, they were responding to the language of heaven. Faith, after all, is heaven's mother tongue. Heaven speaks clearly through the words of the book of Galatians. Chapter 5, verse 16, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. This verse is not a rule, it's an invitation. It calls you into partnership with the divine rhythm that governs all creation. To walk in the Spirit is not to escape humanity, it is to redeem it. It means allowing heaven to translate every emotion, every thought, every action into something sacred. The Spirit doesn't erase your humanity, it refines it, purifies it, aligns it with heaven's heart. You've probably noticed that when you follow the Spirit's prompting, things begin to fall into place effortlessly. You meet the right person at the right time. A door opens that no human could have planned. But when you ignore that voice, even simple things become heavy. That's because obedience brings harmony. Resistance brings chaos. The Spirit's voice is not only the path to holiness, it's the path to peace. Learning the language of heaven requires trust. You will not always have clarity, but you will always have confirmation. God never asks you to understand fully before obeying. He asks you to step, and understanding follows. The Spirit speaks in movement. The moment you move, revelation increases. That's why stillness before Him is not inactivity, it's calibration. You are tuning your inner ear to hear the tone of heaven. Sometimes, this language feels like contradiction. You'll hear God say, "Let go." When you want to hold tighter, wait. When you're desperate to run, speak. When you'd rather hide. But every command is a translation of love guidance from a Father who sees the full picture while you only see the frame. The more you trust His tone, the less you'll need explanation. And then there comes the beauty of fluency, when you begin to think, speak, and act in the rhythm of heaven without hesitation. Your responses change. Your atmosphere changes. You become a living echo of divine truth. The language of the Spirit becomes your instinct, and the sound of heaven becomes your song. This is where God wants you, so in tune with His whisper that no counterfeit can distract you. The flesh may shout, but your spirit will smile. The world may tempt, but your soul will stay anchored. Because once you've learned the language of heaven, every other voice sounds foreign. Chosen one, this is your divine classroom. You are being trained not just to hear, but to understand, not just to receive, but to translate. The Spirit within you is teaching, leading, shaping you into a vessel that carries heaven's meaning into the world. Every surrender, every yes, every moment of stillness is a word in that language. And soon, you will not only speak it, you will become it. There are seasons when heaven seems silent. The prayers go unanswered. The visions fade. And the once clear voice of God feels distant. You look toward the sky and hear nothing but the echo of your own thoughts. Those moments can feel like exile, as though you've been forgotten by the one who once called your name. But chosen one, what if silence is not absence? What if the stillness of heaven is not punishment, but preparation? There are divine seasons when God hides not to abandon you, but to deepen you. He withdraws the sound of His voice so that your faith learns to walk without constant instruction. The silence of heaven is not a void, it is a classroom. It is where roots go deeper, where trust matures, and where obedience is tested without applause. The noise of revelation may pause, but the relationship continues. Just as the sun still warms the earth, even when clouds cover its face, God is still working, even when His voice is veiled. At first, the quiet feels heavy. You search for signs, for feelings, for something tangible to remind you that you are not alone. Yet nothing comes. You start to question whether you've done something wrong, whether you've missed a command or wandered too far. But what if this silence is sacred? What if God trusts you enough to stop repeating what He has already spoken? Silence, in the life of the chosen, is often a compliment from heaven. It means you've matured enough to walk by faith. Think of the seed buried beneath the soil. For a time, it sees no light, hears no sound, feels only pressure and darkness. Yet, under that silence, life is unfolding. The seed is breaking open, expanding, rooting itself in a place unseen. If you could see beneath the soil, you would never doubt the process. The same is true of you. The silence you feel is not death, it's germination. Something is taking shape below the surface, beyond your sight. There's a mystery in God's quiet seasons, one that few can endure, but every chosen one must experience. In the noise of revelation, you learn His words, but in the quiet, you learn His ways. The silence of God forces you to remember what He already said. It pulls out of you the truths He planted long ago. It's the Spirit saying, you already have what you're looking for. We are reminded of this divine stillness through the words found in the book of Isaiah, chapter 30, verse 15. In quietness and in trust shall be your strength. These words hold the heartbeat of heaven's silence. Quietness is not weakness, it's refinement. Trust is not passivity, it's power restrained. God does not speak less in silence, He speaks differently. He speaks through alignment, through timing, through endurance. The silence becomes a language of its own, one only the matured can interpret. In these seasons, prayer feels different. You begin to pray not for answers, but for assurance, not for signs, but for presence. And slowly, you realize that silence is not the absence of God, it is the deepening of your hearing. When heaven quiets its voice, it sharpens your discernment. You begin to sense God not through sound, but through stillness. You notice His hand in the details, His breath in the ordinary, His comfort in the waiting. The silence of God is never empty. It is full of formation. David felt it in the caves, Elijah in the wilderness, Jesus in Gethsemane. Every chosen one has walked through the corridor of silence, and each one came out carrying a deeper revelation of who God is, not the God who only speaks, but the God who stays. When God is silent, He's not ignoring you, He's observing you. He's watching whether you trust what He said before He stopped speaking. He's strengthening your spirit to depend on His character rather than your feelings. Because true faith doesn't live on new words, it lives on remembered ones. Silence strips away the need for performance. It refines your motives, purifies your devotion, and proves whether your worship is conditional. Anyone can praise when the heavens thunder with answers, but it takes divine maturity to worship when heaven whispers nothing. It's in that sacred stillness that your love becomes pure. You stop loving God for what He gives, and you start loving Him for who He is. The silence is where prophets are formed, not just inspired. It's where kings learn humility and warriors learn endurance. It's where the noise of the flesh finally dies, and the whisper of eternity begins to rise again. If you are walking through such a season, take heart. Heaven is closer than it appears. God's silence is not rejection, it's the shadow of His wings covering you while transformation unfolds. You are not forgotten, you are being refined. You are not ignored, you are being trusted. And when the voice returns, and it will sound different, stronger, deeper, clearer. Because silence doesn't weaken the chosen, it strengthens their hearing. One day soon, you'll look back on this quiet and realize it was the holiest noise you ever heard. There comes a time when hearing is not enough. The revelation that sits in your heart must be translated into motion. Obedience is the bridge between what God says and what you see. You've listened. You've discerned. You've waited, but now heaven whispers a new command: move, not with haste, but with holy precision. Because when you obey divine instruction, invisible dimensions open before you. Obedience is the master key that unlocks realms logic can't touch. It's not about rules or rituals, it's about resonance. When you act in alignment with heaven, creation recognizes your movement. Circumstances begin to shift. People are drawn or removed. And the atmosphere around you bends toward purpose, even before you see it. Your obedience is already building it. The world teaches that progress comes from control, from effort, from constant motion. But heaven's order is different. Divine progress is not measured by speed, but by surrender. You don't have to force what is already yours, you only have to follow. When God gives instruction, He has already gone ahead of you. The step you fear to take is the very ground He has already prepared. Obedience is never easy, but it is always fruitful. Sometimes it feels like walking blindfolded on a road made of wind, each step uncertain, yet strangely secure. That's because obedience is not about sight, it's about trust. When you follow divine direction, you're not walking toward a destination, you're walking toward revelation. You may not see the reward immediately, but obedience always carries its own harvest. Think of Abraham, stepping out without a map. Think of Noah, building when there was no rain. Think of Peter, casting nets again after failure. Each act of obedience was a seed planted in faith, and each seed eventually broke the soil of impossibility. We are reminded through the ancient words recorded in the book of Isaiah, chapter 1, verse 19, "If you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land." This is heaven's economy. Obedience is the currency. It's not about effort, it's about alignment. When your spirit says yes, the earth responds in kind. Doors open not because you knock harder, but because you knock on the right one. Provision flows not because you chase it, but because obedience positions you under its stream. But many struggle with this truth. You may ask, what if I heard wrong? Or what if I fail? Yet God never calls you to succeed, He calls you to obey. The outcome belongs to Him. The step belongs to you. Obedience isn't about perfection, it's about partnership. Each act of faith, no matter how small, echoes through eternity. There will always be a battle before obedience. Fear will whisper, "What if it doesn't work?" Pride will say, "I don't need to." Doubt will question, "Was that really God?" But the moment you choose faith over fear, humility over pride, and trust over doubt, heaven moves. The enemy trembles because he knows what happens when a chosen one walks in. Obedience territory is taken, chains are broken, and light begins to reign. Chosen one, do not underestimate what your obedience can unlock. That small yes you whisper in prayer may release healing into your family. That decision to forgive may break generational cycles. That act of giving, even when it hurts, may open floodgates you didn't know existed. Every time you obey, you realign history with heaven's intention. If your heart is stirring as you read this, if you feel that gentle pressure in your chest that is the Holy Spirit nudging you toward action, don't ignore it. The prompting of God is never random. It's a divine signal that heaven is ready to move through you. So let your heart respond. Write this simple declaration: in faith I will obey. Type it not as repetition, but as revelation, because the moment you declare it, you are stepping into agreement with heaven. Those words may be few, but they carry weight in the spiritual realm. When you say, "I will obey," angels are dispatched. Obstacles begin to shift, and what was once blocked starts to clear. You are not typing words, you are activating a covenant. You are saying, "Lord, I trust your direction more than my understanding. I choose your way over my comfort." And heaven honors that choice. Every miracle ever recorded began with obedience. Every transformation began with surrender. Every chosen one was defined not by what they knew, but by how they responded when God spoke. Your yes might not change the whole world, but it will change yours. And that's where heaven begins, one obedient heart at a time. So say it boldly. Type it with faith. Whisper it as a vow between you and God: "I will obey." Let those words become your rhythm, your anthem, your direction. For as soon as you obey, the unseen will begin to move, and the impossible will start to bow before you. Every chosen one must face the testing of the voice. The same voice that called you into light will one day call you into fire, not to destroy you, but to prove you. Every word from God is pure, yet it must pass through the furnace of experience before it becomes revelation. You've heard his promises, felt his guidance, seen glimpses of his glory. But now comes the proving ground. Every chosen one must learn this truth. God's voice will test you before it blesses you. It's easy to trust the voice when it speaks of favor. It's harder when that same voice leads you into wilderness. Yet the wilderness is where the voice becomes clearer, where every echo of falsehood fades away. When God speaks, the words may sound gentle, but they carry the weight of transformation. Obedience to the voice will always lead you into unfamiliar territory. Because heaven's map doesn't match the world's directions, you may feel like you've been led into silence or scarcity. But remember, tests aren't punishments, they are invitations. When God tests his word in you, he's revealing its strength. Gold isn't afraid of the fire because it knows fire only exposes its purity. The same is true for your faith. The word planted in your heart will face heat, pressure, delay, but not to destroy it, to refine it. The scripture declares this mystery clearly in the book of Psalms, chapter 105, verse 19. The word of the Lord tested him. Those words were written about Joseph, a man who carried a dream from heaven but spent years in dungeons before the dream came to life. The word that promised his rise first tested his roots. God gave him a glimpse of glory, then allowed circumstances to contradict it, not to crush him, but to calibrate him. That same pattern exists in your life. What feels like contradiction is actually construction. God is building you to sustain what he's preparing to release. There will be moments when you question, did I really hear him? Because everything around you screams the opposite. The door you thought would open shuts tight. The relationship you believed was divine falls apart. The opportunity you prayed for disappears. But in those moments, heaven is watching your posture, not your pain. Will you trust the voice when it leads you through the valley, just as you did when it led you to the mountain? The testing of the voice is never about hearing, it's about holding. Can you hold on to what God said when you see nothing that supports it? Can you cling to his whisper when thunder fills the sky? Every test is a question of endurance. Every silence, every delay, every hardship asks you one thing: do you still believe? Chosen one, when the voice seems distant, remember that faith is the bridge between what you heard and what you see. You are not abandoned, you are being refined. The silence of heaven is not rejection, but preparation for revelation. The word that tested Joseph is the same word that crowned him. The testing precedes the triumph. Imagine a tree in the middle of a storm. Its branches whip in the wind. Its trunk bends. Its leaves scatter. Yet underground, its roots are digging deeper, anchoring it to endure the storm. That's you. The storm isn't destroying you, it's anchoring you. Each gust of trial forces your faith deeper into the soil of trust. When the winds stop, you'll find yourself standing stronger than before. And while this word strengthens you, I ask that you help strengthen the message itself. If these words have spoken life to you, let your response become part of the testimony. When you like this message, it's more than a gesture, it's a small flame added to a growing fire of light. When you share it, you are not spreading content, you are scattering seeds of hope across a weary world. If your spirit feels led, subscribe so that you remain connected to this stream of divine truth. The voice that speaks here is not from one person, it's a flow of revelation that belongs to every heart willing to listen. And if you are moved to donate, let it be from gratitude, not obligation. Every seed sown here becomes a light for someone still trapped in darkness. You are not funding words, you are fueling awakening. Think of it like this: when you pour water into a flowing river, the current carries it far beyond your sight. In the same way, your support, whether through prayer, sharing, or giving, travels farther than you know. It touches souls you may never meet, comforts hearts you'll never see, and becomes part of heaven's echo on earth. The testing of your faith and the spreading of this message are both acts of trust. One proves your endurance, the other expands your reach. Both are sacred, and just as gold emerges brighter from fire, your obedience and your generosity emerge as light that cannot be hidden. So, keep standing, even when the fire burns hot. Keep trusting, even when proof disappears. Because when the testing is over, the word will speak for itself. The promise will no longer be prophecy, it will be reality. And you will look back and realize that every delay, every tear, every storm was heaven's way of making sure you were ready for what was already yours. There are memories woven deep within your spirit, threads that stretch beyond this lifetime. You've carried a faint sense of familiarity with the divine, as if you've heard his voice long before you were born. That is not imagination, it is recognition. The echo of the Creator's words still lives inside you. Your spirit remembers Eden, the place of first communion, the sound of footsteps in the garden, the pure dialogue between humanity and heaven before separation entered the story. You were made for that kind of intimacy, that sacred nearness. Even now, something in you longs for it. Every time you pray, you are reaching back toward that original connection. Every sigh of worship is your soul remembering the language of Eden. The reason you recognize God's voice is because it was the first sound your existence ever heard. Long before your body took form, your spirit was already listening. That divine memory explains the ache you feel when you drift from his presence. You can succeed in every earthly pursuit, yet still feel empty if you're disconnected from that ancient sound, because nothing else fits the shape of your spirit except the frequency of his voice, the applause of people, the comfort of possessions, the thrill of new experiences. They fade quickly. But one whisper from God revives what the world could never reach. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, and those sacred words still carry truth for you today. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." That verse is not a metaphor, it's a memory. It reveals that your story did not begin with birth, it began with knowing. You existed first in the imagination of God. Before you had a name on earth, you had identity in heaven. Before you learned to speak, your spirit responded to the divine tone of your Maker. You are not an accident navigating chaos. You are an echo returning home. That's why no matter how far you wander, you always find yourself drawn back to the source. The world can teach your mind, but only God can feed your spirit. Every chosen one eventually discovers that nothing external can silence the internal pull toward purpose. You are magnetized by eternity, drawn to the one whose image you carry. This remembering is what separates you from the world's noise. It gives you sensitivity to what others ignore. When you hear a word of truth, your spirit leaps because it recognizes its origin. It's the same reaction John the Baptist had in Elizabeth's womb when Mary, pregnant with Jesus, came near. Spirits recognize each other before words are exchanged. The same recognition happens when heaven draws near to you. Sometimes that recognition comes in unexpected ways: a dream, a scripture that refuses to leave your thoughts, a stranger's kindness that feels strangely divine. These moments are not random, they're reminders. God plants them along your path like trail markers, leading you back to his presence. They're small fragments of Eden scattered through your daily life, whispering, "Remember where you came from." This is why the call of God feels both familiar and fearful. Familiar because your spirit knows the sound, fearful because your flesh resists surrender. But once you understand that the call is not external, it's internal, you stop running from it. You begin to see that following God is not about learning something new, it's about remembering what your spirit already knows. Think about how a musician tunes an instrument. The string doesn't learn a new note, it returns to the right vibration. In the same way, when you align with God's voice, you're not creating harmony, you're restoring it. You're tuning your life back to the key of heaven. That's why obedience feels like peace. Peace is the sound of alignment. The more you walk with God, the more you realize that his voice doesn't just instruct, it restores. It's not always loud. Sometimes it comes as a gentle resonance inside you, reminding you that you're still connected, still known, still loved. The voice of God doesn't need to shout over chaos because it's the original sound from which everything else flows. Creation itself recognizes that frequency. When storms rise in your life and confusion tries to cloud your heart, remember this: your spirit has weathered chaos before. It stood in eternity, surrounded by light, and responded perfectly to the voice that called it into being. That same voice is calling you still, not from a distance, but from within. The shepherd hasn't lost his sheep. He's drawing you back to the sound that once brought your soul to life. Even when you feel disconnected, the memory remains, like the faint hum of a song that never leaves your head. The voice of God lingers beneath the noise, and every time you pause, every time you choose stillness, You hear it again, not with your ears, but with your being. Chosen one. Your spirit remembers its origin. You are not searching for God so much as you are returning to Him. Every step of obedience, every act of faith, every moment of stillness pulls you closer to that first voice. You are journeying back to the garden, not a physical place, but a spiritual state where heaven and earth meet within you. The voice that formed galaxies also formed you. It knows your tone, your rhythm, your name. And one day soon, when all other sounds fade, that same voice will call again, and your spirit will respond, not as a stranger, but as a child returning home. When divine alignment begins to manifest, it rarely arrives with noise. There is no thunder, no blinding light, just a quiet, certain knowing deep in your spirit that everything is finally moving in order. The confusion that once clouded your thoughts begins to lift, and for the first time in a long while, you feel synchronized with heaven's rhythm. It's not that life becomes perfect, but rather, it begins to flow. The doors that once resisted you start to open effortlessly. The conversations that used to drain you now bring clarity. What changed was not the world around you, it was your alignment within. You have entered a season where heaven's coordinates are guiding your every step. The path ahead of you isn't random, it's designed. Every connection, every delay, every sudden redirection carries purpose. This is not coincidence, it's calibration. God has been positioning you like a piece in a grand design, fitting you into places where your presence fulfills prophecy. And now, what once felt heavy begins to feel guided, even when it still looks uncertain. The alignment of God is not just external, it's internal. Before He arranges circumstances, He aligns hearts. Before He changes seasons, He changes posture. That's why you felt the internal shifting lately, the discomfort, the call to release old things, the sense that something greater is approaching. Heaven is straightening what was once crooked, correcting what was once compromised. Divine order is not punishment, it's protection. There is a sacred calm that comes when your spirit aligns with divine will. It's not the absence of storm, it's the peace within it. Alignment means knowing that even when the winds blow, you're still facing the right direction. It means trusting that the voice guiding you has already seen the destination. Heaven does not lead you in circles, it leads you through sanctification. We are reminded of this truth through the words spoken in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2. Verse 2, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. That command is not just for prophets, it's for you. To write the vision means to acknowledge what heaven has already shown you. When you write it, you bring the unseen into the seen. The act of writing is agreement. It's saying, I see what you've shown me, and I believe it will come to pass. And when you make it plain, you create clarity, not just for yourself, but for the generations who will walk after you. In alignment, even time begins to respond differently. Delays no longer discourage you, they refine you. Waiting no longer weakens you, it prepares you. You begin to recognize that heaven's pace is not slow, it's strategic. God's timing is never late, it's layered. What He's building through you requires both stillness and motion, both faith and patience. Each season contributes to the fullness of His plan. When your heart aligns with His will, everything begins to echo that harmony. Relationships that no longer serve your growth begin to drift away without conflict. New opportunities arise without strain. Divine timing becomes tangible. You begin to feel it. You realize that the waiting wasn't wasted. It was the tuning before the symphony. But here's the challenge of alignment. It often requires separation. To align with heaven, you must be willing to detach from anything that distorts the signal. That might mean releasing your old ambitions, forgiving old wounds, or walking away from old patterns, not because you've failed, but because you've outgrown what no longer fits. The same way a river must leave its narrow source to become wide, you must release the small to embrace the sacred. Chosen one, don't fear the adjustments that are happening around you. Heaven is not dismantling your life, it's rearranging it. You're not losing stability, you're gaining structure. Divine order is like a master craftsman adjusting every joint of a bridge before allowing others to cross. The pressure you feel right now is not breaking, it's shaping. And now, as a prophetic act of agreement, declare your alignment in faith. Type the number 555 inches, the comments. This number carries symbolic meaning. It represents divine transition and grace multiplied. It's heaven's reminder that you are not just changing locations, you are changing dimensions. When you write 555, you are saying, Lord, I align with your pace. I yield to your plan. I trust your process. This simple act isn't superstition, it's synchronization. You're marking a moment where your spirit comes into agreement with divine timing. Heaven records moments like this, moments when faith speaks louder than fear. So let your declaration rise. Type 555, not for ritual, but for remembrance. It is a symbol of your readiness to walk in alignment, to let heaven's rhythm become your own. This is the season when everything that once resisted you will begin to cooperate with the will of God. You have not missed your moment, you are stepping into it. The divine order that once seemed distant is now unfolding around you. Every delay was alignment. Every detour was direction. And every surrender was synchronization. Heaven moves, and you move with it. That is divine alignment. That is grace multiplied. That is the sound of your destiny finding its rightful rhythm. In every generation, there is a battle for attention, a clash between the true voice of heaven and the countless imitations that echo through the world. The enemy knows he cannot silence God, so he tries to distort him. He speaks half-truths wrapped in comfort, lies wrapped in light, flattery disguised as prophecy. And for many, that distortion becomes deadly. The greatest danger to the chosen ones has never been silence. It has always been counterfeit sound. You have likely heard these competing voices, one urging you to rush ahead, another whispering that you are not enough, another promising shortcuts that feel spiritual but lead to emptiness. They all mimic holiness, but none carry authority. The counterfeit voice always flatters the flesh. The true voice confronts it. The false calls you to self-promotion. The true calls you to surrender. The enemy doesn't fear religion, he fears revelation. Because revelation awakens discernment, and discernment dismantles deception. This is why discernment is not a luxury for the chosen, it is survival. You cannot afford to believe every spiritual sound that reaches your ears. Some voices quote scripture yet carry no spirit. Some messages inspire emotion but strip away conviction. The world is full of noise that pretends to be divine. Yet only one tone brings peace. That is how you know. The voice of God always carries peace, even when it pierces, conviction, even when it comforts, truth, even when it trembles through your bones. The apostle gave this warning centuries ago, and it burns just as brightly today. It is written in the first book of John, chapter 4, verse 1, "Test the spirits to see whether they are from God." You may ask, but how can I know for sure? The answer lies not in fear, but in familiarity. You know the counterfeit by knowing the original. The more time you spend with the true voice, the quicker you recognize imposters. When your heart is saturated with Scripture, when your thoughts are anchored in worship, deception loses its camouflage. Darkness cannot mimic the fragrance of holiness for long. Discernment grows in the soil of intimacy. It is not gained by suspicion, but by proximity. The closer you walk with God, the clearer His tone becomes. Soon, you will notice that false voices carry static. They feel urgent but empty, loud but hollow. They appeal to your ego, not your spirit, the true voice. However, never manipulates. It invites. It doesn't beg for attention, it waits for obedience. There is another test of truth, time. The voice of heaven endures. What God speaks today will still be true tomorrow. False prophecy fades with fashion. Divine revelation deepens with age. When you receive a word that burns consistently in your heart, even through silence, that is a sign of authenticity. The Spirit of God never needs to rush His validation. His words bear fruit naturally, not forcefully. Chosen one. The sharpening of your discernment is not punishment, it's preparation. You are being trained to distinguish signal from static, clarity from confusion. Heaven cannot trust its secrets to ears that chase every sound. You are learning the discipline of listening deeply, not widely. It is better to hear one sentence from God than 1,000 voices of men. In this age of endless messages and instant proclamations, guard your inner frequency. Not every bright light is guidance. Some are distractions meant to blind. The enemy uses overload as a weapon. When you're surrounded by too many voices, you lose confidence in the one that matters. So simplify. Step back into silence until peace returns. God never competes with chaos. He waits for your stillness. And understand, this discernment does not mean isolation. It means wisdom. You can love people without accepting every opinion they speak. You can walk among many and still follow one. Even Jesus listened to questions from the crowd, yet He answered only what aligned with His Father's will. That same pattern must be yours. The counterfeit will always attempt imitation, but imitation has an expiration date. Sooner or later, truth exposes falsehood, not through argument, but through endurance. What is born of heaven survives the test of time. What is born of ego dissolves in it. If you have ever been deceived, do not carry shame. Every chosen one has faced the counterfeit, the pain you felt, the lessons you learned. They were all sharpening your discernment. God allows you to hear wrong voices so you can learn the texture of His true one. You are wiser now, more anchored, more sensitive to the Spirit's subtle signals. So remain calm amid the noise. Let your heart be a tuning fork for truth. When you sense agitation, step back. When peace floods you, step forward. The Spirit within you knows the frequency of heaven and will never fail to recognize its tone. In this generation of distortion, your discernment is your armor, and when you walk in it, no imitation can lead you astray. For the true voice that once spoke the universe into existence is still speaking within you, and your spirit will always know the sound of home. When faith becomes more than belief, it turns into motion. You have learned to hear, to recognize, to discern, but now you are called to walk. Heaven has not spoken only for your comfort, it has spoken for your commission. Every word you've received carries weight, and every step you take in faith gives it form. When you walk by faith, you activate divine laws that remain dormant to those who live by sight alone. Faith is movement in response to revelation. It is not optimism, it is obedience. To walk by faith is to trust what you cannot trace, to take a step without a visible guarantee. It is the art of seeing the invisible and acting as if it is already tangible. The world calls that risk, heaven calls it alignment. And those who dare to move in such faith become living evidence of the supernatural. You will know when faith begins to rise inside you, because fear will begin to scream louder. The moment you step toward purpose, the enemy whispers, "What if you fall?" But faith replies, "What if I fly?" That conversation between fear and faith happens inside every heart that dares to obey. Yet the more you walk, the quieter fear becomes. Fear thrives in hesitation but dies in motion. The apostle wrote words that still pulse with divine rhythm in the second book of Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 7, "For we walk by faith, not by sight." That single line carries the structure of spiritual reality. Sight gives information, faith gives revelation. Sight reacts to circumstances, faith shapes them. Sight sees obstacles, faith sees openings. When you walk by sight, you move within limits. When you walk by faith, you move within infinity. The step of faith may look small in the natural, but it sends shockwaves through eternity. Heaven measures obedience, not size. Sometimes a whisper of yes in prayer carries more power than 1,000 declarations. Sometimes the simple act of showing up, even when afraid, becomes the gate that opens the impossible. Walking by faith means accepting that your steps are guided even when your path is invisible. It means knowing that when you put your foot forward, heaven builds the ground beneath it. Like Peter stepping out of the boat, you discover that the water becomes solid under obedience. The miracle is not in the water, it's in the step. But understand this truth: walking by faith is rarely convenient. It interrupts comfort, offends logic, and requires surrender. It asks you to believe when evidence is absent, to trust when emotions are unstable, and to move when others stand still. Yet every time you do, heaven moves with you. Think of faith as a lantern in the night. It doesn't illuminate the entire path, only the next few steps. But as you keep walking, more light appears. The journey is revealed progressively, not instantly. Because faith is not about seeing everything, it's about trusting someone. The same God who led you into the dark is the one who placed light inside you. There will be moments when faith feels fragile, when doubt presses against your heart like a heavy wind. In those moments, remember that faith is not absence of fear, it is defiance of it. It is choosing to step forward even while trembling. Heaven never asked you to walk perfectly, only faithfully. Walking by faith will also challenge your relationships. Some will not understand your decisions. They will call your obedience reckless, your hope unrealistic. But you are not walking for approval. You are walking for assignment. The path of the chosen rarely makes sense to those who are not called to it. Each step you take is prophecy in motion. You are writing invisible declarations across time and space, proving that trust can move mountains, that surrender can open seas, that persistence can birth promises. The footprints you leave behind will become the path for others who are still learning to believe. Walking by faith does not mean you will never stumble. It means that even when you do, grace catches you before you fall too far. God honors movement more than perfection. The stumble of a believer is still progress compared to the paralysis of doubt. Chosen one, you were never meant to stand still in fear. The same Spirit that called you out of darkness will sustain you on the path of faith. Each step is sanctified, each moment written into heaven's design. The destination is not a place, it's transformation. Faith doesn't just take you somewhere, it changes who you become on the journey. So keep walking, even when you see nothing ahead. The silence is not emptiness, it's invitation. The wind against your face is not resistance, it's confirmation. Every gust, every delay, every detour is shaping your stride. You are not walking alone. The one who spoke light into being is walking beside you, whispering with every step. Keep going. You are closer than you think. The ones who listen and follow become crowned listeners. Their crowns are invisible to the world, but radiant in the spirit. Each act of obedience becomes a jewel. Each step of faith adds brilliance to their unseen diadem. The crown is not made of gold or silver. It is forged from surrender, patience, and purity of heart. It is not worn for vanity, but for victory. The moment you begin to live guided by God's voice rather than human noise, heaven recognizes your reign. You become one who governs not with control but with clarity, not by force but by faith. The crowned listener understands that true authority is born from attention. The power of kings and queens in the spirit does not come from crowns placed on their heads, but from ears tuned to heaven. When you can hear God in the storm, when you can perceive direction in the silence, when you can remain faithful in confusion, then the crown begins to take shape. It is not given once, but built daily through devotion. We are reminded of this truth in the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 10. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. Your journey is shaping that crown. Every time you choose forgiveness over bitterness, another gem is added. Every time you trust God in uncertainty, another ray of light reflects through it. The process is often painful, but pain is the polishing cloth of the divine. No crown shines without friction. The pressure you've felt lately, the challenges you've endured, they're not punishment, they're craftsmanship. Heaven is refining your character into something royal. Think of your life like a tapestry woven by unseen hands. Each thread represents a choice, some bright with joy, others dark with trial, yet together they form a masterpiece of purpose. The dark threads are necessary, they make the light stand out. Likewise, the trials in your story make the faith in your spirit visible to others. You are being woven into something eternal, something beautiful, something meant to inspire. And while heaven forges crowns, earth witnesses transformation. People begin to notice peace that cannot be shaken, strength that cannot be explained, hope that cannot be extinguished. You become living proof that faith works, that obedience bears fruit, that light overcomes darkness. You become an example not of perfection, but of perseverance. Beloved, If these words stir something within you, if you can feel that gentle pulse of divine confirmation, let your heart respond, not out of obligation, but out of connection. Like this message if it resonates, not for the sake of numbers, but as a silent amen. Each like becomes a spark that helps this flame reach farther into the world. When you share it, imagine tossing a seed into the wind. You may not know where it lands, but God does. Someone scrolling in despair might find it and remember their calling. Someone who thought they were forgotten might read it and realize heaven still knows their name. Sharing isn't about visibility, it's about visibility for light. If you subscribe, see it as building a bridge, linking your spirit with others, walking the same narrow path. This isn't just a digital act, it's community in motion. Together we grow stronger, sharpened by the same message, moving in the same rhythm of obedience. And if your heart feels led to donate, do it as an offering of gratitude. Think of it not as giving away, but as planting forward. Just as a candle loses nothing when lighting another, your giving adds warmth to countless others. Every contribution, large or small, becomes part of heaven's echo, fueling the continuation of messages that remind the world of purpose, grace, and truth. The harvest of a crowned listener is not comfort, it's impact. When you walk in obedience, others are drawn to follow. When you support what brings light, that light multiplies. When you comment and engage with faith-filled words, you speak life into digital spaces that often overflow with darkness. So don't underestimate your role in this movement. You are part of heaven's architecture, one faithful brick in the building of awakening hearts. As you read this, the crown is already forming, not visible yet, but felt a weight of glory resting gently on your soul. Each act of obedience polishes it. Each prayer strengthens it. Each word of encouragement secures it. You may not realize it, but even your quiet faithfulness is a sermon. Your endurance preaches louder than any platform ever could. Chosen one, keep listening, keep shining, keep allowing the divine craftsman to refine your life into a crown that reflects his glory. And if this message has touched you, express it in the way your heart leads, whether through a comment, a share, or a simple prayer whispered to heaven, because every echo of faith creates ripples in eternity. And one day, when the final chapter closes and the noise of the world fades, the crown that was invisible will be revealed, and it will testify that you listened, you followed, and you finished well. When heaven speaks, it is never for curiosity, it is for direction. The voice of God is not merely sound, it is a compass. It doesn't just reach your ears, it reshapes your path. Every time the divine whisper enters your spirit, it invites you to follow a sound that cannot be traced by maps or reason. It calls you into movement defined not by certainty, but by trust. You are learning that following the voice of God means walking into what others call uncertainty and calling it purpose. The command of heaven is rarely comfortable. God often speaks in ways that disrupt your expectations. He calls you out of places where you feel safe, not because he wants to deprive you, but because he wants to deepen you. The voice doesn't lead you where it's easy, it leads you where you become. That is why obedience feels heavy at times. It's the weight of transformation pressing against the old version of you. When God says, follow the sound, he's not just inviting you to move, he's inviting you to trust what your spirit recognizes even when your mind resists. The voice of God does not always explain itself. but it never misleads. Every instruction is a thread that, when followed, weaves your story into divine design. To follow the sound is to walk by resonance, not by reason. You may not always know where you're going, but the voice always knows where it's taking you. You might feel like you're walking through fog, seeing only one step ahead. Yet that one step is enough. Heaven doesn't reveal the whole journey at once, because revelation without relationship leads to pride. God gives you pieces, not puzzles. Each sound, each nudge, each whisper becomes the next coordinate on your journey. There's a rhythm to divine direction. It comes like music. You don't see the melody. You feel it. When you move with the sound, you stay in harmony with heaven. But when you ignore it, the dissonance grows until peace disappears. Peace is always the indicator. If you lose peace, you've strayed from the rhythm. That's why it's better to pause than to push when heaven's sound grows faint. In the stillness, you find the tone again. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 30, verse 21, "This is the way, walk in it." That command is both instruction and invitation. It reminds you that divine guidance is not a concept, it's a conversation. God doesn't hand you a route. He walks beside you as you take each step. The voice that said walk also promised to walk with you. That's what separates divine direction from human advice. It comes with presence. When God leads, He doesn't point from a distance. He accompanies you with every heartbeat. Following the sound often means releasing control. You cannot demand explanations from a God who moves in mystery. You cannot hold maps when you're called to trust melody. The flesh seeks certainty, the spirit seeks communion. Every time you choose to follow His sound over your understanding, you build history with heaven. You develop spiritual reflexes that no storm can break. Sometimes, the sound will lead you through valleys before it takes you to mountains. It may guide you into isolation before it reveals community. But each detour is deliberate. The wilderness is not a wrong turn, it's a rehearsal for wisdom. Every step in the dark sharpens your hearing. Every unanswered question strengthens your sensitivity. By the time you reach your destination, you will know His voice so well that no imitation can deceive you again. Following the sound also requires courage to move, even when others stay behind. There will be those who don't hear what you hear. They'll question your steps because they can't perceive your sound. But faith is not democratic, it's personal. The call that found you wasn't meant for their ears, and the sound that guides you may be silent to everyone else. Do not expect validation for revelation. To follow the sound is to embrace continual becoming. Each act of obedience births a new version of you, stronger, wiser, freer. You are not merely walking to a destination, you are walking into transformation. God's voice doesn't only lead you outward, it leads you inward toward the truth of who you are in Him. The greatest reward for following the sound is not the promise you reach, but the person you become. You become fluent in heaven's rhythm. You begin to recognize His presence even in the mundane. The same wind that once terrified you becomes the carrier of His whispers. You start to see that every path He called you to walk was never random, it was redemption in motion. Chosen one. The command is simple, yet profound. Follow the sound. Let it become your compass when logic fails, your map when clarity fades, your comfort when fear whispers. The sound of heaven is not distant, it's within you, an eternal echo, reminding you of your origin and destination at once. Every time you choose to follow it, You prove that faith still works, that heaven still speaks, and that you are still chosen to hear. There is a stillness that falls over the soul once you finally recognize the voice, not just hear it, but know it. It is the same stillness that existed before the first sunrise, when creation waited in silence for the sound that would awaken everything. That is what happens inside you when the divine voice becomes familiar again. Heaven and earth meet in your chest, and suddenly you understand that every sound since the beginning has been leading you back to this moment. You no longer chase confirmation because you are the confirmation. You no longer beg for signs because your life itself has become one. Every breath, every heartbeat, every word you speak now carries that unmistakable tone of recognition. The voice is not separate from you, it reverberates through you. The shepherd doesn't just call from afar, he speaks from within, reminding you of the unbroken covenant that existed before time took shape. Recognition is revelation. When you realize that the voice guiding you is the same voice that called stars into existence, your fear loses its authority. You understand that you were never walking alone, you were walking with eternity beside you. You see how even the mistakes, the detours, the seasons of silence were all woven into divine timing. The path was never broken, it was sacredly winding. This is what it means to rise, not to escape the world, but to live in it with heaven's awareness. You begin to perceive everything differently, the noise, the chaos, even the pain. It no longer feels random. It becomes a symphony of reminders that you are chosen, that purpose cannot be stolen, that light never forgets its source. We are reminded of this eternal invitation through the words written in the book of Hebrews, chapter 3, verse 15. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. This verse is the culmination of every message heaven has spoken over you. It is not a warning of fear, but of intimacy. Do not harden your heart means do not close what God is trying to open. Every call from heaven is a door. Each moment of conviction, each whisper of peace, each tear that falls during prayer, they are all keys turning within you. If you keep your heart soft, every lock yields. The voice does not force entry, it invites surrender. The hardest thing to protect in this life is not your reputation, not your success, but your tenderness. The world tries to harden you, to make you defensive, cautious, skeptical, but the chosen remain tender because they understand that softness is strength. The heart that stays tender becomes a sanctuary where heaven can still speak. Hardened hearts echo with their own fears, tender hearts echo with God's truth. You've learned by now that following the voice doesn't guarantee comfort, it guarantees clarity. You will still face storms, but you'll face them with understanding. You'll still encounter pain, but you'll recognize purpose hidden within it. You'll realize that even the breaking was building you for the blessing. The voice never leaves you where it found you. It transforms you in every encounter. There's a sacred maturity in recognizing his tone in every circumstance. When blessings come, you hear gratitude in his voice. When trials arrive, you hear instruction. When silence falls, you hear trust. The voice doesn't change, it translates differently depending on your season. It teaches you to find God not just in the miraculous but in the mundane. Every sunrise, every breath, every unexpected kindness becomes a sermon. You are now the living echo of what you once sought. The voice you followed has become the rhythm of your own. You speak differently because you've learned the cadence of heaven. You love differently because you understand that every soul carries a fragment of the same sound. You forgive more easily because you hear God's mercy repeating through you. The divine voice has not just guided you, it has become your language. This is the final call. The moment of full circle. The voice that once reached down from heaven now rises within you. Whispering through the chambers of your renewed heart, follow, and you will find me in every step. The sound is no longer external, it is your identity. You are no longer searching for the frequency of heaven, you are carrying it. You are a vessel of resonance, a living testament that God still speaks and that hearts still respond. Chosen one, your recognition has turned into response, and your response has become revelation. You have crossed from hearing into being. The voice has not just guided your path, it has rewritten your story. You are no longer defined by where you came from, but by the sound that now flows through you. So walk onward, softly but boldly. Let your steps speak the melody you've learned. Let your life become the echo of every word heaven has ever spoken. The journey was never about finding the voice, it was about remembering that it never left. And now that you recognize it, you rise not as one who listens occasionally, but as one whose entire being is in tune with eternity. The voice called, and you answered. The light spoke, and you recognized it. And now, as you move forward, remember this truth that eternity already knows. The one who spoke your beginning will also speak your completion. You were chosen not just to hear, but to follow the sound until it becomes your song. And now, beloved chosen one, the message comes full circle. The voice that called you at the beginning still speaks even now, softly within your chest, reminding you that this journey was never random, it was revelation. You have walked through awakening, silence, obedience, and alignment, and you stand now as one who recognizes the sound of heaven. This is not the end of a story, it is the continuation of one that has only just begun. Every time you return to this message, it will meet you differently, because revelation grows as you grow. Let these words not just inspire you, but anchor you. Let them echo through your days like a melody that reminds you who you are, chosen, called, and crowned. The same voice that spoke galaxies into motion has been whispering your name all along. If this message has spoken life to your spirit, let your response be an act of gratitude. Like this message, not for numbers, but as a way of saying, I hear the voice. When you share it, you become a messenger, spreading light into places your feet may never reach. Every share is a seed of truth planted in someone else's darkness. And as you subscribe, you're not joining a channel, you're joining a movement. A family of listeners who refuse to let the noise of the world drown out the call of heaven. Together we walk. Together we listen. Together we rise. Finally, take a moment to comment below what this message stirred in your heart. It might be a single word, a short prayer, or simply an echo of faith, but your words carry weight. They remind others that they are not alone on this path of purpose and awakening. The voice still speaks. Chosen one, keep listening, keep shining, keep following the sound.